Good morning, coffee moaners. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone? How are you all? Wow, what a night last night was. Such a blur of colour and flavours and festivities. Oh, yes. Filming for your Vlogmas, we were. Well, good morning. If you're listening on podcast, welcome. If you're first time listening on podcast and you hear me referring to the names of lovely people as if I'm in a room with people, I'm not, and I haven't gone mad. It's our lovely community. Morning, Margaret. Morning, Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. I haven't gone down the Beatrix Potter wormhole. No, that's one of our followers. Sharon Carter. Morning, everyone. Wow, big news headlines today, guys. Lots of news today. Epstein, Trump, Starmer, Andrew, the artist formerly known as Prince, a potential pardon for Netanyahu. Oh, just so much going on with so many corrupt people, all of them sort of white men of a certain age. It's just quite staggering, isn't it? My age, unfortunately. I'm embarrassed to be a white man of a certain age. Morning from Glasgow, says Anne-Marie, 2023. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Jackie Pugh, just in the middle of How to Stay Married So Far. Brilliant. It's a good one. I mean, biased, aren't we? We like them all. We just turn the cameras on and we talk. Yeah, I thought it was an important one to kind of nuzzle into Nads a little bit. Reese Roberts says there's a political firestorm. Feels like the meme of Donald Glover walking in the room with a pizza box and everything's on fire. It certainly does. It's kind of the analogy I'm using for the Epstein files and Donald Trump. It's like he's wandered into quicksand. And you know, in quicksand, did anyone else have this as a kid? I don't know if it's a kind of 70s generational thing, though. I have to say, Maddie, my daughter, she shares the same fears. I don't know why. In the 70s, well, the 70s, there used to be quicksand everywhere. I mean, in films and on TV, Saturday morning shows and things like that. Toffs, stop it. Thank you, Zoe. Good. You know, riding through. Yeah, quicksand. Quicksand was such a thing, wasn't it? It was so petrifying, and you'd watch people in jungles and in sort of fantasy films, and they'd sink. And the more they tried to pull themselves out of the quicksand, the deeper they would go. And it was always the idea that someone would have to, you know, reach over a branch and you'd pull yourself. Anyway, this is Donald Trump's quicksand. Yeah, was there quicksand in Indiana? Yeah, which one was there in quicksand? I can't remember the quicksand in Indiana. I can't say anything. Yeah, Trump. We're talking Trump. But before all of that, over 100,000 of you have watched my interview with the Harvard professor Avi Loeb, and there is new news, guys. And for those of you who are up for an extraterrestrial adventure, potentially good news. For those of you for whom you haven't got the bandwidth for it, it's all too much. I mean, the last message I got from Nadia today was something along the lines of, I just can't do it. But she says, I can't deal, I am powerless. So just quickly on the interstellar object, because it could end up becoming the biggest news story of, well, I couldn't even say the biggest news story of a civilization. It could become the biggest news story of Earth. Well, it would be civilization since humans have been on Earth. The Three-Eye Atlas, just to say, Professor Avi Loeb was talking about the idea that if it had in any way fallen apart, burnt into pieces, started to become incomplete and sort of fracture and fragment, which is what you would kind of expect it to do around the back of the sun, then it's a pretty safe bet it's just a comet. But it hasn't. It's still a single orb-like body. I mean, it's presenting as an orb on telescopes because it's so far away. It's still charging along with absolutely no deviation in its movement, which is a new anomaly that's being pulled together that is very rare for any kind of comet or interstellar object of any form to hold such a constant course. And this is holding a constant course. And it's also demonstrating something called an antitail, which is basically a sort of plume heading towards the sun in the opposite direction to the way it should be heading. So again, in a weird way, the latest news basically suggests it could still be a engine propelled, powered something or other. Doesn't mean it is, but though it basically, the news today doesn't remove or doesn't dismiss all of the fears or possibilities that it could be artificial in origin. Just thought I'd throw that in there, because I think sometimes when you think about this kind of bigger thing, I saw someone left a comment underneath our chat saying it reminds you that there are bigger things. And I think one of the things, I was speaking to the professor off camera, and one of the things he did say was, wouldn't it be, if humans were sensible and emotional and were all pulling for each other, it would remove the need for any conflict anywhere, because everyone would just be like, let's all just share our efforts in kind of looking at whatever this thing is and pulling together. You know what I mean? It could be the great galvanizer. Who knows? Just wanted to give you that, because I know a lot of people, Sharon Carter, I can't see that aliens would make things worse. No, neither could I. Do we know how big it is? Yes, we do know how big it is. It's, interestingly, it's at least the size of, if you were to, Dina thought I meant you could literally drop it on to Manhattan as Tetris, but it's not like that. It's the size of Manhattan. It's 10 to 20 kilometers wide in diameter. It's big. It's big. It's fucking big. And I know a lot of people are worried about it hitting. It's not necessarily about it hitting either. That's not the bit that's concerning for me. It's going to come closest to Earth on December the 19th. It will become closer. It will be at its closest point. If it stays on the trajectory it's on, it will be at its closest point to us on the 19th of December. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Just when you're closest to something doesn't necessarily mean that's when you do it. And some are suggesting it could go all the way to Jupiter, swings, do a quick UE, handbrake turn, and come all the way back. It's not small. It's not the size of a house. It's big. Just in time for Christmas. So there you go. For those of you who are kind of hungry for knowledge on that, that's the latest news. And if you go to Medium is a sort of, you can upload articles. It's a bit like Substack. Avi Loeb's latest is there. And as he shows, these are images from a Nordic thermal telescope. 3i Atlas is still a single body with a sunward anti-tail. He's very unsensationalist in his language. The media and people like Brian Cox want to say he is sensationalist. He's not. He just he's on the side of looking at what makes this not what everyone wants it to be, which is a comet. Look, that's quite an interesting one. Looks like a nipple. See that one there? Just came across this morning. Does it contain water? It has very limited. There has been water coming off it, but not massive, not in the region of what there should be. So there's water on there. There's carbon dioxide on there. There's carbon monoxide, and it's mainly made of, or consists of, nickel, which in and of itself is strange, because nickel always usually presents with iron. But the weird thing is it's interstellar, so there could be so many elements to it that are natural from where it came from, but not natural to us. So anyway, so let's talk about the news today. Lies, denial, and anger as Donald Trump faces an Epstein meltdown. Bunch of emails have been released. The US government is coming out of shutdown. And as they come out of shutdown, it essentially means that this woman here, Representative, I can't pronounce her name correctly, I probably haven't, Grijalva, Representative Grijalva, so this woman, who can now be signed in because she won her position in government, she can now be signed in because the shutdown has finished. And once she's signed in, she is the extra signatory needed for them to have to vote in the House of Representatives on releasing everything the Department of Justice has on Epstein. Now, me and Nadia have said this before, so that's all well and good. So, so we're at a point where the American government is going to vote on releasing the Epstein files. And the question mark here is, what are the fucking Epstein files now? What is left? What is there? I've got a strange feeling that they may have been tampered with. They may have been removed. Now, just to kind of balance against that possible thought, which kind of then diminishes the whole thing, that's the reason I'm flagging that right at the front, is that there is chat, and there is the suggestion that everything America has, the Department of Justice has in the Epstein files, that we're all thinking, well, Donald Trump and his acolytes will just remove it all, won't they? They'll just wipe drives and put Biden's face on other people's faces and things like that. But by all accounts, as I understand it, other intelligence agencies around the world, perhaps Iran might be one of them, also has access somehow to much of what is in these files. So it's a trick. It's a kind of game of chicken. If they pretend they haven't got it, someone else may have it. If they say they've got it and they release it in a slightly different fashion, or it doesn't quite look like it did when it started, when they got it, someone else might have the originals. Do you get me? I'm thinking, you can think of the Prince Andrew photograph. It's not real. It's not original. Then we all look at the hand and we go, oh yeah, the hand is a bit low. Da, 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 da. Anyway. Gabrielle, can I ask, why are they wanting to release the Epstein files now when he's dead? Who are they targeting? Oh, Gabrielle, yes, sorry. If you're not across the story, yes, Trump potentially highly implicated, but not just Trump. I mean, there are a lot of people who like to suggest, well, I don't think Trump actually is directly in the tapes or in the files or in the footage and all this kind of stuff. He might not be. That's not what this is about. But Trump is lying, or the suggestion is that Trump is lying and has been lying. And I think he's got form in this in some of the court cases he's had, some of the kind of accusations that have been leveled against him in terms of his treatment, his approach to women. For anyone with sensitive ears, I'm going to use kind of quite rude toiletry sort of humor. I mean, his comment, let's say, when in the run up to his first electoral win as president, when he talked about, grabbing the pussy, and then he dismissed that as locker room chat. So we're not necessarily talking about Trump, though we could be. We're not necessarily talking about Trump being caught necessarily doing anything on tape, in photographs or whatever, though there is a strong suggestion that images of such like have been seen. But there is also the suggestion that Trump is lying about what he knew, about what he knows of Epstein, about what was going on with Epstein. Just look at how he spoke about Lindsay Lohan. So yes, this is about Trump. This is about Trump, what he knew, but it's also more significantly about so many other incredibly powerful, influential, formerly, Democrats, Republicans, just people of power in the American system, not just of government, but finance, the arts, science, who were themselves involved in this. So in blowing open the whole Epstein files, you blow open an awareness that everyone had of what was going on. And we've got some of the emails that have come out in the latest cache of emails that have been dropped into the public realm. We're going to go through them in a minute, and you can begin to see, oh, wow, okay, this isn't looking good. The other important thing to reiterate, as whenever we're talking about the Epstein files, and again, apologies if I repeat myself, apologies if this is kind of territory we've gone over before, in my opinion, but it's not just my opinion, the Epstein files for me, and not just me, but many others, are inextricably entwined with America and Britain's complicit involvement and refusal to kind of push back against Israel's genocide in Gaza and Israel's general expansionist policy and attitude in the Middle East, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in Syria, etc. So the idea being that Jeffrey Epstein was allegedly an operative working for Israel, gaining blackmail sort of content that he could use against people in positions of authority in the West, in government, to get what Israel wanted in terms of global politics and local, sort of foreign policy in the Middle East. Now, Dropsite News, brilliant independent news gatherer. I just pulled this just before we went live. That's why I was a little bit delayed. New investigation Dropsite News are conducting. New investigation reveals Jeffrey Epstein's ties to the Israeli government and intelligence. Now, this is nothing new to those of us who've kind of had our nose up against this for quite a while. But this will be interesting for anyone who is kind of new to this, is like, oh, really? Okay, so this is, I just want to read what it says. A new series by Dropsite News looks at Epstein's ties to Israeli intelligence and how he secretly brokered numerous deals. The investigation reveals that Epstein played a role in brokering Israeli security agreements with other countries and maintained deep relationships with Israeli officials. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak's top aide, Yoni Koren, regularly stayed at Epstein's Manhattan apartment. Epstein had an extensive relationship with Israeli intelligence, US intelligence, and the intelligence agency of other countries as well. He was a deal maker and a fixer at a very elite level. And that is a report which I'm certainly going to be looking into and reading from Dropsite News. So if one sort of runs with this idea, then you are beginning to get to this place where those in the world who say there's a deep state, there's this cabal of kind of grooming, child abusing, psycho weirdos everywhere. You just pause for a minute and go, okay, that's kind of what this sounds like a little bit. So in a weird way, Trump is the plug in the dam. Or I saw a photograph yesterday of a huge plug in a reservoir. He's stuck in the hole, and if he's pulled out of the hole, the water will gush and the flood doors will open, and all those analogies, and a whole heap of names will fall into the limelight, and culpability, knowledge, illegality. I think in a weird way, the fact that Andrew, formerly known as Prince, lost his titles, it all happened last week. I think I said at the time, is there a feeling or a sense that perhaps more is about to come out and they're trying to get ahead of the news story? I think so. DP, exactly. All this stuff has been said for ages, and people dismissed it as conspiracy. And one has to always ask, and I fully hold my hand up in this and say, I was guilty of doing exactly this. Everyone likes a conspiracy theory until actually there are so many conspiracies, you think none of them are theories, they're actually happening. And you're right. I think anyone who's felt this, suggested this, wanted this to people to understand this, have been dismissed as conspiracy theorists. But as this becomes more and more, as this refuses to go away, it becomes more and more apparent. And it's interesting that Israel hasn't said a single thing about Epstein, not a single thing publicly. Do you remember old Netanyahu stood up on the podium talking about Charlie Kirk very quickly, I would hasten to add. He's very, very sort of outspoken about so many other things, but he hasn't had a thing to say about Epstein. Jackie Harris says, I totally agree with that, Mark, that the Epstein files and Epstein are all linked with Israel intelligence, hence why America and the UK are complicit. If it ever comes out, it will be a miracle. It will be a miracle. I still think there are questions, says Tina A8975. I still think there are questions that need to be answered as to how he died. Whilst in prison, Trump was in power then. Absolutely. Musical chimp. Trump had the files, video and audio too, and the FBI has combed them for info for they could use to blackmail the Dems. Yeah, no, I mean, look, and the thing about the Epstein files is this. Both sides of the political equation have sought to take advantage from them. There's I'm not suggesting Barack Obama's implicated, but he's certainly on flight logs. The Clintons are in there. This isn't just a party political thing. This is just people in power. So, for example, I do know that Israeli intelligence services were really working and manipulating Bill Clinton around the whole Monica Lewinsky case. Do you remember that? They got copies of his voice notes and his voice messages, and they were tapping his phone and stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of, it's a blackmail. It's a honey. It's all. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, in a weird way, was conducting what you could call the biggest and most lurid and most disgusting and high class. I don't mean that in it's classy, but that's that term, isn't it? Like for high class prostitute, high class, sinister, lurid honey trap. That's what Jeffrey Epstein created, was the most lurid honey trap to capture the most influential people in order to kind of be able to manipulate what those countries and those people did. So on that note, let's have a little look-see, shall we, at some of the headlines as they've been coming out. CNN reporting Trump is getting pulled deeper and deeper into the Epstein drama. He certainly is. Newly released emails reveal that Epstein kept a close eye on Trump and that Trump knew far more about Epstein than Trump ever reveals when he's asked about Epstein. Have you noticed he does that thing now where the other day he was in the Oval Office and someone asked him about Ghislaine Maxwell and he goes, who's Ghislaine who? Oh, I don't know her. Oh, Ghislaine. I haven't heard a thing said about her since the last time I said something about her myself. Sort of plays dim. US House to vote next week on the bill compelling release of files. Now, this is significant. This is what I was just talking about a moment ago with the bringing in of this new elected Democrat. The House of Representatives has 4 Republicans also voting with them to release the Epstein files. I'll try and simplify this. So I think it will get through the first House. But the problem here is it then has to go up to the Senate. And it's pretty damn guaranteed that the Senate won't vote for the release of the Epstein files. And even if in the weirdest, strangest sense of a situation, the Senate did vote to release the Epstein files, it would then have to be signed off by, guess who? Donald Trump. I mean, so whilst on the one hand, it's a huge win that the government shutdown stopped, that this vote can happen. And this is the vote, by the way. I don't know if you remember when many of the victims were up in Washington on Capitol Hill giving their testimonies, incredibly powerful. We went live. We did a couple of pieces on it. Incredibly moving. You know, all of the victims went up and talked to all of the kind of politicians, trying to explain to them the horror, the hideousness of everything that had gone on. And that was all about trying to get this vote to happen on the floor of the House of Representatives. And then the shutdown happened, and there was this enforced inability to be able to get any movement or traction on this vote happening. And in that process, during that time, this new Democrat woman was elected in, and she basically, the reason this woman is so significant is less about who she is, but more she makes the numbers up. She means that it will now pass this first vote. But it still has to be passed in the Senate, and it still has to be fucking sanctioned by Donald Trump, the big man himself. So it isn't a guarantee. What it does do, and I think the reason it is still important and significant that there is this shift and that it moves this far, is that the further it moves, even though it keeps getting blocked, the more and more embarrassing it looks for Trump, because it becomes more and more obvious that he and the Republicans are blocking this for what purposes, because they obviously don't want what's in there to be revealed. And I stress again, what could be revealed has many hues. It might not feature Trump in compromising situations. It might be materials that have been entirely doctored, redacted, and altered. We don't know. We just don't know. But that's where we're at now. It's a major moment. It's a potential step in the right direction. We're going to hear some clips. I'm going to play you some film video in a minute of Caroline Leavitt. She's quite something, isn't she? Nothing to see here. Trump press chief in full denial mode over Epstein. And we'll talk about Peter Mandelson in a moment. So I'm going to show you, let me just show you some of the emails that have come out. And again, there's sort of redacted moments in them. So I'm going to flash up on screen some of the emails that have been published in many newspapers. People are sort of homing in on certain different ones all the time. Here's one from Jeffrey Epstein to, I don't know who this is to. I want you to realize that that dog hasn't barked, that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted name, victim. It's been suggested since it was Virginia Giuffre. Spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. This is the bit in this email. So this is the idea that Trump clearly spent time, and Epstein is saying this here, with it's subsequent to this being released and redacted, identified as Virginia Giuffre. It's Giuffre, isn't it? That's who they're talking about. I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump, i.e. someone hasn't said something. Virginia Giuffre spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. This is Epstein almost frustrated that, and annoyed that Trump has never been mentioned. But this is the bit that no one's really homed in on. Police chief, etc. I feel that's a clear suggestion that the reason Trump hasn't been mentioned is some complicit involvement of a police chief. Is anyone investigating who the police chief was? Yeah, well, I can see you keep saying Jill Dando was assassinated or executed. I mean, she was. And what's the connection, musical chimp, with this? Is there a connection? Maybe she was she conducting an investigation at the time? Trump, this is another message from Jeffrey Epstein. Trump, borderline insane, redacted, a few feet further from the border, but not by much. Suggesting that Trump is on the edge of going mad. You see, I know how dirty Donald is, says Jeffrey Epstein. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York biz people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip. Then Kathy Runer says, it makes no difference whether it was his money. Issue is failure to disclose, plus fact that he has lied his ass off about it makes it clear that he knew it was illegal. All of this still suggesting that Trump knew lots more about what was going on, because they keep talking about what is going on. I mean, not surprisingly, they're always talking in kind of, what's the word? Sort of, it's kind of like, behind an arras. It's kind of cloak and daggers, because they're trying not to reveal too much. This is a really unpalatable one. This is from Michael Wolff. We've played clips from him before. And this email from Michael Wolff, who wrote the book, has written numerous books about Donald Trump. He's forever posting on Instagram. He's been a huge advocate and critic of Trump, etc. I've always found him a little bit sort of weird and sort of, I don't know. I mean, he's quite brutal and ruthless in his own way. Anyway, this is a message from that author, Michael Wolff, to Jeffrey Epstein. And it says, I think you should let him, Trump, hang himself if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house. Then that gives you, Epstein, a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him, Trump, in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, Epstein. Or if it really looks like he, Trump, could win, you could save him, generating a debt, of course. A debt as in Trump would be indebted to you. This does not throw a very positive or particularly nice light on Michael Wolff, if I'm honest. He's basically in cahoots here with Epstein about Trump. If it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating this debt. Of course, it's possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. It's all so dodgy. It's all so dodgy. And I would argue that in a weird way, just that email makes Michael Wolff complicit too, which really at this stage now, though, even though we've played him, Alison Humpkey, I don't know if this changes your opinion on him, makes him, he's so sort of involved himself. You can't help but wonder, what's his agenda? How close was he to Jeffrey Epstein in order to be able to advise Epstein on how better to blackmail Trump? Curious stuff. This is another one here. Read the BuzzFeed, read my airplane logs and Hawaiian tropic contest. Have them ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was so focused he walked straight into the door. The idea being he was obviously drawn to so many pretty faces, he just couldn't tear his face away. And this one, victim, Mar-a-Lago, Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. This was from Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff. So one of the things that Trump is going to struggle to be able to say now is, I never knew what he was doing. All I knew was he was taking women. He was taking them from Mar-a-Lago. I was very cross because he was taking our stuff. So he can't pretend he didn't know what was going on. It really makes your skin crawl, Victoria Moore, because of course we're kind of, these are kind of moments, shards of email details from the past. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. These have been held. These have been known about for a while. I just want to play you this guy. I haven't got a fucking Scooby who he is. Some of you might know who he is. But his outrage and fury at the release of these is quite palpable and quite real and quite relatable.
Epstein wrote in an email that Trump knew what he was doing the entire time and hung out at a house with one of his victims for hours on end. What do you mean that email has been in the possession of both the DOJ and a reporter and Congress this entire time and was only released this morning? What do you mean by that? Why now? Where has this been the whole time? The email is from 2011. 2011. 2011 was, let me do math here, 14 years. The email is old enough to be a victim. Why is it taking so long for this email to be shown to the world?
Yeah, his handle is Pearl, as in Pearl Necklace, Pearl Mania 500. It is odd. Oh, Alex Perlman. There you go. You know him, Alice Bob. I haven't come across him before. Yeah, why? You know, this has been known about. This has been out there. This is considered not new news. This is. But fucking hell, hang on a minute. There's Trump sitting there going, I don't even know who the man is. Who's Ghislaine? I hear the name. I haven't heard her name for a while. Who is she? Oh yes, Ghislaine. Let's have a listen to Caroline Leavitt, shall we? His press secretary. Because, of course, what people are now saying is these messages, these emails, this latest tranche clearly demonstrate that Trump absolutely knew what was happening and what was going on, and in fact spent a profound amount of time with victim Virginia Giuffre.
New Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
The suggestion trying to be there that in the act of redacting, it kind of throws ambiguity and ambivalence over who's being spoken about. And I think what she's trying to say there, I'm not supporting what she's saying, but I think what she's trying to argue there is it was politically motivated, the redacting of the name, to throw ambivalence over who it was. And the fact that, Virginia Giuffre has not directly accused Trump speaks to the cleanliness of his reputation. Donald Trump, obviously, I saw a number of you saying the irony that Donald Trump's social media platform is called Truth Social. His truth, he posted his truth yesterday. The Democrats, I won't do the whole thing in his voice, otherwise I'll lose my throat. The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again. I mean, calling it the Jeffrey Epstein hoax is his hope in the media to spin this into something that never lands as a reality. Because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion. They've brought in 14 trillion with their recent antics, and they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else. And any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. In other words, the Democrats are using the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to try and deflect from their massive failures, in particular their most recent one, the shutdown. He's trying to characterize the shutdown as a bigger story than the Epstein files. I mean, I think their hope is that by, it just keep going on and on and on, people will tire of it. But I really don't think people will. It's too serious a story. It's too serious. It's too serious. The consequences and the ramifications of it are so far reaching. Here's another moment from Caroline Leavitt.
Why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. This has been.
Yeah, right. And as Punk Tartar says here, she spent, the victim, Virginia Giuffre, hours with Donald Trump chatting and drinking colas. I don't know why I find that hard to believe. I don't know why I find that hard to believe. I mean, I know he doesn't drink alcohol. I don't know. It's just like, oh, yeah. That's demonstrating Pinocchio's nose there. This post, which again has an image of the new Democrat politician Grijalva, who's been sworn in. This has actually been posted by Greg J. Stoker, very brilliant advocate for Palestine, former US veteran, served in Iraq. He says here, very sort of tongue-in-cheek, I'm not into sports betting, but what's the over and under odds on the number of days before essentially the Gulf of Tonkin 2 or an incident off the coast of Venezuela? What I think he's suggesting there is, what is Donald Trump and what is his administration going to do to distract from the increasingly sticky quagmire? There's a number of things that they could turn to, though. There's a war with Venezuela. There could be another bombing of Iran, but if Iran holds some information that America knows Iran holds, I'm only suggesting I have no intelligence proof for that, though I have read in a few places there could be something in this if you observe American flights over Iran, not necessarily wanting to attack, but just wanting to monitor and keep a hum of threat there. Yeah. What could be next? A war on Venezuela, or perhaps, who knows? Maybe they haven't. I mean, I'm really reaching for clutching at straws now. Maybe NASA hasn't released the high-rise images or the closer photos of the interstellar object that they've got because they want to use them for some political purpose. Who knows? Generate some kind of fear or panic, or I don't know, obscure or obstruct the clarity of whatever this fucking thing is flying through space. You never know. I mean, anything's possible. But what I feel he needs a distraction. Does anyone, okay, let's just come off the kind of news flow just for a minute. Who here feels that Trump is in a bit of a corner? I mean, I feel more than at any other point, I feel he's under pressure. Under pressure. Maybe Russia lent Iran their life. Yes, right. Yes. So when Iran met Russia just before they got their nuclear sort of structures bombed, maybe they weren't talking about, can we borrow some of your, Russian nuclear assets? Maybe Putin just said, just take this book. This book will be much more damaging than any nuclear arsenal. I hope so. He's up to his neck in poo, says Stuart G. I love the way and I love the emoji, Stuart. Thank you. Everything is so murky, says Mrs. Sadie C. And yes, Trump is squirming. I mean, relative to Trump, he feels like he's squirming. I mean, the only thing that could tip this over is if any Republican senators decide, actually, Trump is weak. I mean, the thing about politics, and we've got something similar happening with Starmer in this country, as soon as there is the scent of blood in the water, it strikes me that in politics, everyone starts to kind of behave differently. And I can't work out whether I'm just beginning to feel that Trump's kind of running out of road, really, for any big, mighty new maneuvers. I mean, what is he going to do? Suddenly declare war on Russia? Suddenly, I mean, even if he declares a war on Venezuela, I mean, I think isn't even Venezuela like, why us? What fucking hell, leave us alone. I mean, Tucker Carlson did a whole thing the other day talking about how even the drugs coming in from Venezuela to America is microscopic compared to the drugs coming in from Mexico. So it's a spurious justification for some kind of conflict. I don't, and he's tried to kind of use ICE and the National Guard to foment civil unrest, but it hasn't really ignited. Musical chimp, yeah, you never know. Maybe there might be enough sort of annoyance and frustration in the Senate that they might get this passed, but then it still has to go to Trump. But then when it sits with Trump, doesn't he then look completely emasculated yet again if he's the only veto on it? Janina M, the American people have got his number now, even MAGA. I think so. The longer the story sticks, the more he continues to squirm and the less he is willing to take questions on this. And I'm going to show you this moment from yesterday as he signed the bill or some decree reopening government. But just what's notable about this is he does the signature, which he holds up proud. Look at the moment where he holds it up proudly. When he holds it up proudly, does anyone else think, oh yeah, that's where you drew that woman's pubic area on the birthday card to Epstein?
I tell you, the country has never been in better shape. We went through this short-term disaster with the Democrats because They thought it would be good politically. And it's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again. Thank you very much.
I love a Sharpie that makes a lot of noise. I love the smell of Sharpie in the morning. I love it. Hey, and then he holds it up. Yeah, look, the same signature on Jeffrey Epstein's birthday card. Oh, yeah. Oh, Donald. What's curious about this clip is he does all of that, but then when he gets the opportunity to take questions.
Now it's over $18 trillion invested in our country by other people and countries. That's a record. There's never been a country that had so much, and that money's going into also building new auto plants, new AI plants, new everything. We've never had a time like this. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, no questions. You see, in a weird way, that tells us more than anything else. I noticed that actually. If you look at his signature, it is slightly different, isn't it? He's trying to change it a bit. You can't get, he's just like a toddler, isn't he? Who's signed his name on the wall in Nutella. And then now he's signing everything else. He's like, oh, I better do it a bit more wiggly. Let me do it with, why did I do it in bubble letters? Oh, he's a troubled man. He's entering a lot more trouble. So there you go. And of course, at the bottom of all of this, let's not forget, there are the victims. This was a paedophilic child abuse ring, which, interestingly, parties like Reform, Nigel Farage was chummy with Donald Trump. He's so vocal, isn't he, about grooming gangs, Nigel Farage, particular types of grooming gangs. But he never sort of brings this one up, does he? With his chum, Donald Trump. I always find, what's his name? Thingy Marks, the chap from LBC who does America. He's always good.
In February, the Attorney General Pam Bondi told the American public and Donald Trump's MAGA supporters that she had Jeffrey Epstein's contact book on her desk. She was reviewing all of these documents ahead of their public release. And then fast forward to July, nothing had happened. And suddenly the Department of Justice said, well, there were no documents to release. In fact, there was no contacts book and there were no documents under review that could possibly be released. Now, you don't have to be the most dyed-in-the-wool conspiracy theorist to conclude that there's a cover-up underway at the White House over the nature of Donald Trump's friendship and involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. There's going to be huge questions for President Trump about that, and I'm not sure that if he defaults to his position up until now, which is that anything compromising relating to his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein is fake news. It's news that has been created by the Democrats, documents, all a hoax. That's not going to wash with MAGA.
And it is interesting. Someone's just said in the chat room there, proud liberal to you. I'm truly surprised Michael Wolff hasn't been arrested. Well, isn't this interesting? Michael Wolff, who has been yapping at the fringes, at sort of Donald Trump's heels, it is odd that he's been left well alone by Trump in a weird way. He's been allowed to yap into the void, hasn't he? They threatened to sue him. That kind of went quiet. It is intriguing. It is intriguing. Sorry, Simon Marks is his name. He's great. Okay, so going back to some of the headlines. So some of the other kind of byproducts of this tranche is Peter Mandelson was in contact with Epstein till at least 2016. More and more pointing towards him being a bad un. And this is big news. Look at the way the Daily Mail reports this. Epstein's ultimate betrayal of Trump. So it's not the fact that Trump has done anything wrong. The Daily Mail is again placing this at Epstein's feet. It's Epstein's betrayal of Trump. What about Trump's betrayal of America? Epstein's ultimate betrayal of Trump, as emails reveal billionaires' twisted plot against president. I am the one able to take him down. Talk about interpreting the evidence. Talk about interpreting the headlines in that way that only the Daily Mail can really do, which is by somehow completely ignoring the awfulness of what's gone on and what's happened, and actually paint Donald Trump as a victim in all of this. Sometimes I marvel, not at what our leaders do, but at the ways in which the Daily Mail specifically can conduct the most gyrating kind of acrobatics and body kind of contortions to twist things round. How can the Daily Mail characterize Trump as a victim in this? Epstein claimed Donald Trump knew about the girls and private emails. Yep, we've talked about that. And look, Epstein email claims that photo of Andrew and GUIFRRE is real. So let me just pull these stories down. I mean, there we go. I mean, I have to confess, whenever I saw this story, and when I saw the photo, I don't know about anyone else, I didn't trust him for a minute. But I tell you what I did think. I did feel that perhaps the hand had been kind of photoshopped on. Jeffrey Epstein appears to confirm a photograph of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor with his arm around GUIFRRE was real in leaked emails released on Wednesday. The emails also reveal that Andrew told Epstein and Maxwell, "I can't take any more of this," during investigations into his alleged abuse. The girl has fled the country with an outstanding arrest warrant, Epstein wrote to a journalist. She was on my plane, and yes, she had her picture taken with Andrew, as many of my employees have, he said. So Epstein confirmed that this image was real. So there you go. I mean, as it all unravels, and I can't help but feel that the royal family knew this was coming. Trove of Epstein emails confirm the bombshell Andrew and Virginia photo is real, and reveals the then prince's message to his paedophile financier friend, begging for help clearing his name. Wow, he did a good job, didn't he, old Epstein, of making sure that everyone was on bended knee to him as an operative for Israel. And in that spirit, look, is it coincidental that on the same day, in the same week, that all these files are coming out? I just want to draw this. I'm only kind of striking this parallel as I speak. Donald Trump sends a letter to the Israeli president, Herzog, calling for him to pardon Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. It just struck me, in the same week that Trump finds himself in a deep quagmire of implicated Epsteinian filth, he writes a letter to the Israeli president seeking a pardon for the Israeli prime minister. It's all beginning to make sense. Not beginning, but I mean, talk about right. So who's looking after who in this equation? Who's doing something for someone else in this equation? Because what I'm suggesting or inferring here is, do we think perhaps, perchance, maybe, that Netanyahu has in his desk, top drawer, second drawer, I don't know, the files, like Iran has them, Israel has them, perhaps Russia has them. Who knows? Who knows? Seems odd that it could just be coincidental. I mean, YouTube says maybe I think the Americans are doing that to harm Netanyahu. I mean, the thing is, once Netanyahu's fraud case is dealt with, either is processed or is removed, you could argue it kind of removes his ability or need, maybe, to even hold on to power. Ehud Barak needs to be arrested. Proud liberal to you. Yeah, and I think Michael Wolff needs to be questioned too. There's so many flipping questions knocking about. Okay, so final story. Starmer. Is Starmer finished? Is Starmer finished? The papers are all talking in those terms. And usually when the papers, and okay, it's mainstream media, we're talking about a mainstream political party. And most of the mainstream media is right-wing, apart from The Guardian and The Independent. But look, here's one of the headlines. If number 10 briefer is found, Keir Starmer will sack the minister, says. This is the story that basically there's annoyance, frustration, and anger within the Labour Party because it's believed and felt that Keir Starmer's chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, this chap, briefed against streeting. Now, briefing means basically you spread bad stories, you say bad things, you gossip in a horrible way to the press and to other kind of senior politicians about someone in order to kind of rubbish them and make them shut up and make streeting not try and challenge Starmer to the leadership. We talked about it a little bit. Would streeting make a good leader? Who knows? Streeting goes to war with number 10. Health Secretary hits out at toxic culture after being accused of plotting against the Prime Minister. And the suggestion is that it was this guy who suggested streeting was plotting against the Prime Minister. Now, the weird thing about this is this guy, Morgan McSweeney, probably did brief against this guy, Wes Streeting, who's saying he doesn't want to take the keys of power from Starmer, but he could be lying because that's what politicians do. But one thing is for sure, right at the top of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, I love this headline, Keir Starmer, the dead cat, is down to his last life in his Commons farce. This is the idea being that he's kind of run out of his 9 lives. He's in a bit of a mess and he's in a bit of a pickle. He's got a budget coming up that however you skin it or view it is going to go down unpopular. It's not going to be popular at all with the vast majority of people. And so consequently, I do think we are in a situation where the Labour Party smells blood and we may see Starmer go. Now, of course, whoever replaces him will be cut from a similar cloth, will end up saying the same pointless things. But you know what? There will be some degree of satisfaction for me if I see Starmer go. He's an unforgivably inept, useless, way out of his depth and incredibly complicit individual in not just the genocide, but in kind of he's had zero capacity to share any heart with us or any authenticity whatsoever. He's looked like a rabbit caught in headlights since he took office. And he's an unforgivably complicit individual in the most appalling stain in global politics and on the global, foreign policy in terms of his tacit support of and justification and whitewashing of Israelis' horrific behavior in Palestine. So anything that gets rid of this guy is good for me. At this point, for me, streeting anyone else who replaces him, Labour's finished. For me, Labour's finished. And this will do nothing to help them. This will only provide manna from heaven for all of those in opposition. Rees, in attempting to keep Labour in government to stave off Conservative reform, his ineptitude has caused more damage and more disappointment. MeTube streeting is ambitious, so probably is a piece that needs to be removed from the board. Starmer will be finished, Hillary Porter, when Morgan McSweeney deems he is no longer useful to Israel. Do check out Owen Jones's interview with the author of, I forget the name of the book, but it's a book about Morgan McSweeney, which is quite interesting. I haven't read the book. Starmer will still be Prime Minister going into the general election. I don't think people understand the dynamics of Downing Street. Well, that's frustrating, isn't it? He's useless. He's shameful. He's unemotional. He's inauthentic. It's not about dullness and personality. He's just utterly untrustworthy. I think he is involved and culpable and so much more behind the scenes than any of us would give him credit for. And he tries to present those wide-eyed sort of innocence or shock as a kind of, as some kind of proof that he's not malevolent. I think he's malevolent. I genuinely think he's malevolent. And so there we have it, guys. So please do hit the subscribe button. Do hit the thumbs up icon. Hit the notification bell. More Christmas fun and jollity will be landing later today. Take care. Have a good day. Thank you for all of your comments. And let's see. Next week, me and Nads are going to be dealing with the Epstein saga in much more detail. I know a lot of the victims are heading up to Washington again. There's going to be a big press conference again. So the pressure on Trump is really increasing. And me and Nadia are going to have front row seats for it when she's back with us next week. So guys,